Whether you are a current Wager Talk TV subscriber, a fan of the extensive amount of free betting information we release, or a client of one of our incredible lineup of handicappers at Wager Talk or Sports Memo, we thank you. Thanksgiving is a holiday loaded with traditions, and we started one of our traditions years ago. Get a 7-day all sports all access from any handicapper for just $69. That's under $10 per day and just $10 more than a 3-day all access. So whether you're traveling, have a house full of relatives, or just sitting back relaxing with an incredible week of sports, you can do so with the convenience of a 7-day pass. There is no coupon needed, and you can choose as many services as you'd like. This Thanksgiving special will be available through Cyber Monday, November 28th, all for just $69. Thank you again for being part of the Wager Talk and Sports Memo family.
Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report, Week 13. I am Drew Martin, like always, joined by Teddy Covers, breaking it down, getting you on the right side of some of these moves, Opening Line Report style. Without further ado, happy Monday morning to my partner in crime, Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome in. How you feeling, buddy?
Hey, great to be here, Drew. Hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving weekend. I know you were a bit under the weather. I flew to Atlanta and back and had a heck of a a fun travel experience, but all's well that ends well. We were back in time for NFL yesterday, and all kinds of interesting things happened on Sunday's slate that are going to affect these numbers. So we'll get into it as you do every week, Drew. You know how we look at it. We go through the look-ahead line, which is a bettable lines for every game. Last week, I used the Westgate numbers as the opener and then the market numbers as the moves. We're going to talk about what my powering numbers are. We're going to talk about where these lines open and, of course, where we think they're going to go. For emergency betting alerts, we'll have to see what comes up. Nonetheless, let's get into it and break it down. 30 of the 32 NFL teams in action this week. Arizona and Carolina both have buys, and there's buys again next week, even as late as week 14. That does influence some of what we're going to talk about today. Teams have gone this whole season, still haven't had a bye yet.
Sure, Teddy. Good stuff. We got a almost chock full NFL Opening Line Report. Before we hit it, we are recording on Monday, November 28th. Anything real quick on the Monday nighter here, Teddy? Pittsburgh Steelers at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts -2, 39 being the total.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing 2.5 as the prevailing number. Some of the leading indicator books are showing 2.5 with juice right now. There is a decent amount of market support for Indy, but I don't see this line moving to 3. I really don't. I think we're going to see 2.5s all day long. Total, we have seen, again, 39.5 is the prevailing number. Some of the leading indicator books are a little bit lower than that, 39, even 38.5. So we could see some under money on the total tonight. But frankly, you ask me where this line's likely to be at kickoff, not far from where it is right now. 2.5, 39.5 would be my guesstimate. So I don't think there's urgency to get involved with the Monday Night Football game right now. The lines aren't moving.
Teddy, let's get into it. NFL Opening Line Report style, Week 13, starting Thursday night. If you haven't heard it yet, maybe you're welcome into the month of December. December 1st, Thursday night, Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, AFC East battle. Do note, all AFC East teams are over 500 here. We're seeing the Bills -5 pretty much across the board here, Teddy, as the road favorite. 44, 43.5 being the total. We have seen some under money already here, Teddy. 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific kick, Thursday night, December 1st. Bills at Patriots to open up NFL Opening Line Report. What are you thinking Thursday night, Teddy?
So the look-ahead line here, Buffalo opened -5 and got bet up to 5.5. The total opened 45.5 and got bet down. There were 45s. And obviously, yesterday at the opener, we saw 44.5s, and now we're seeing 43.5s. So there's been pretty steady flow of under money, sharp under money at the get-go here. My powering number for the game, Buffalo -4.5. And I've been slightly downgrading the Bills of late. The offense hasn't been quite as in sync. The defense dealing with all kinds of injuries. And, I know they got Tre'Davious White back in the lineup. Again, this is a guy who tore his ACL last Thanksgiving. Only played 2 series last week, and mostly They've been playing rookies in the secondary, Christian Benford, Dane Jackson. So it's a Bills team where the injuries have really started to affect them. That was on clear display on Thanksgiving Day. It's been on display for the last couple of weeks for Buffalo. So I've downgraded them a little bit. That being said, the Patriots didn't play a clean game on Thursday night against Minnesota, two teams that will have extra time to prepare for this one. We generally like Belichick with extra time. But, I mean, New England, 0 for 3 in the red zone. They went 3 of 10 on third down. They committed 5 different penalties that led to Vikings a first down. Of course, they came into the game with the 31st ranked red zone offense in the league. We've seen this Patriots offense struggling against Buffalo's defense repeatedly last year, in both meetings last year. It wasn't like New England was marching the ball up and down the field. I can understand why this line's sitting at 5 as we speak. And frankly, it feels like where it's about to sit. I'm not anticipating a bunch of New England money. I'm not anticipating a bunch of Buffalo money for this one. Line likely to stay in the range where it is right now.
Great start to the weeknight action. We got Sunday slate starting off 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific here, 451, 452. We'll go down in rotation order, guys. New York Jets, Minnesota Vikings kicking us off here. Vikings -3, Teddy, as the home favorite across the board. 45.5 being the total. Jets, Vikings starting us off on Sunday, Teddy.
Sure. And this one, if we'd have done this show an hour or two ago, this would have been an emergency betting alert on this total. Look at this. Look ahead total, Vikings, Jets, 41.5. The line was 2.5, bet up to 3. Last night opened 3 and 42.5. Seeing 44.5 this morning. Since I wrote the 44.5, we're up to 45.5. So there's been a real significant wise guy move on Jets Vikings over. And I think they're looking at the Jets as a team that maybe has a quarterback now. I don't know. We'll see if Mike White. Well, we'll talk about the Jets in a minute. But the markets are looking at the Jets as a team that are as good or better offensively after the quarterback change. Better offensively after the quarterback change they've been so far. And obviously, look, Minnesota's won every one-possession game this season. That's actually the longest winning streak, 8 consecutive one-possession wins. The longest winning streak in one-possession games for one season in the history of the NFL. So if you want to say Minnesota's due, they're due. And certainly the Vikings are not a team that's being respected in the betting markets like the other squads that are at the top of the standings. From a statistical profile, Minnesota isn't there. From a points allowed, points gain, points scored, points allowed perspective, Minnesota isn't there, and they are clearly being viewed as a lesser contender, almost the TCU of the undefeated teams in college football. They're not being priced like an elite squad. Minnesota's got a couple of things that are working for them right around, and one of them is certainly Justin Jefferson, who is pretty close to, if anyone can design a game plan to keep the ball out of an opposing defense's top player, that's Bill Belichick. And when Minnesota played New England last Thursday, Jefferson, 9 receptions on his 11 targets, 139 yards and a touchdown. And New England did all kinds of stuff to try to slow him down. Didn't matter. That could easily be a problem against the Jets, although the Jets' front four has been phenomenal. And all of a sudden, the Jets, who have had a lot of internal chemistry issues with their receiving corps, Garrett Wilson wanted to be traded. Elijah Moore wanted to be traded. All of a sudden, their star is scoring touchdowns when Zach Wilson gets benched. Mike White's getting all the credit, even when he throws a bad interception late over the middle, and it goes right through the defender's hands, and Wilson catches it and runs for the touchdown. Zach White's the man, Mike White's the man. Let's not forget that the Jets' success with White behind QB, with their backup quarterback, came against a Chicago team that isn't stopping anyone and lost half their defense to the injury yesterday. So before we say Mike White is the man, I might tap the brakes a little bit on that one. The markets aren't. We're seeing threes pretty straight across the board. But like I said, nothing but over money in early betting action between Minnesota and New York.
453, 454. Denver Broncos, Baltimore Ravens up next here, Teddy. Talk about some more under money, 38.5, even 38 flat starting to show up here. We got -8. That's Baltimore as the home favorite. Couple 8.5 out there. Broncos at Ravens next game up here, Teddy.
Yeah, a look-ahead line here. Baltimore opened 6.5 and was bet up to 7. The total opened 41 in the look-ahead and was bet down to 40.5. These were all before the games were played on Sunday. My powering number is Baltimore -9. And the markets opened 7.5, 8 last night, 39. And as you mentioned, nothing but under money. And I guess we've seen a 7.5, 8. It's still sitting in that range right now. Mostly 8s across the board. There is an 8.5, there is a 9, there is a 7.5. But mostly 8s for Baltimore, Denver. I would anticipate that it's going to stay in this range. And look, nobody wants the Broncos right now. 9 times this year they scored 16 points or less, like they did again yesterday. The lowest scoring team in the NFL. Now the defense is showing time. I mean, we've seen Russell Wilson now this is the worst trade in NFL history, and the Denver's and all a nightmare. And Nathaniel Hackett's not coming back, and I mean, there's nothing positive coming out of anything going on in Denver. But worth noting about what happened defensively, because this team's defense has kept them in every game. They've given up 100 yards to a rusher and 100 yards to a receiver each of the last 2 games, to the Raiders and the Panthers. And look at some of the quotes from the defensive leaders. Josie Jewell, we didn't do enough. That was not a good one. Justin Simmons, we didn't play good enough to win. We didn't stop the run. We didn't stop the explosives. No way you're going to win games like that. Simmons did give us a little bit more, though. Quote, I think the chemistry with this group is still great. I think when you put as much into it as you do week in, week out, and you don't get the results, it can be frustrating. So as frustrated as everyone is watching, you can imagine how guys are when they're the ones out there trying to put the work in to try to win football games. Things aren't clicking for us as a team, not just on one side of the ball. So, I mean, and of course, the injuries for Denver, they don't have a left tackle. They don't have their starting center. They aren't on injury reserve. Their receivers in uniform, 3 of them are undrafted, 2 of them are rookies. It's not a healthy team. The markets are crashing on Denver. That said, can't say I liked anything what happened with Baltimore, the way they lost that game yesterday. And another team that had 4 losses this year where they've led by 2 scores in the fourth quarter. They're 3 of 9 in the red zone in the last 2 games. All right, Jackson over the last 2 weeks. Lamar Jackson, 2 of 10 passing for 17 yards in the red zone. This is a guy who was at 60% in the red zone with 59 touchdowns and 2 interceptions from 2018 to 2021. This year, they're not putting the ball into the end zone. And the way they're losing, Harbaugh's a guy who's, he's taken this more than his fair share of risks. I wonder about the chemistry in Baltimore. I did not like their post-game quotes. They're not a team I'm excited about laying a price with. Might well be bet against versus bet against in this one.
Teddy, next game up, we got 4-5-5, 4-5-6, Pittsburgh Steelers, Atlanta Falcons. We're seeing the Dirty Birds, -1.5 point home favorites. -2 is available. 42 being the total in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, downtown Atlanta.
Look-ahead line here was Atlanta -1 and 42. It didn't really move. My powering number has the Falcons 2. And the markets right now, 1.5 and 42. And we're not seeing any indications that anything's going to go anywhere right now. Of course, the Steelers play tonight. And if Pittsburgh looks good on TV tonight, they're likely to take money for next week's game. This is a situation where if you like Pittsburgh this evening, I think they're going to win. It does make sense to make 2 bets, not just 1 bet. Again, this week and for next week, because this market could well move. If the Steelers look awful tonight, this line could go the other way. I wouldn't argue. It could easily be a 3 if Pittsburgh looks like a bottom feeder this evening. Although, so it's one situation where you may want to consider making 2 bets if you like or don't like the Steelers for Monday Night Football. Atlanta's now lost 3 of their last 4, and they got beat kind of playing their own game yesterday. Washington did what they tried to do. Washington did it better. And they're still in the contest, had a chance to win at the end. Mariota's pass got batted, which happens with the shorter quarterbacks. And then a tip drill interception in the end zone to lose the game. They're now falling to 2 games under 500. They're another team that hasn't had a break so far this season. So Atlanta, this point spread is likely to move much more based on Pittsburgh. The markets are confident in their Atlanta number, comfortable with their Atlanta number, that the Falcons are a mediocre to bad team, but not a bottom feeder. And we're going to see Atlanta continue to be priced in that point spread range.
457, 458 up next as we head up to Philadelphia from the ATL. Tennessee at Philadelphia here. We're seeing a total of 44, actually ticking up to 44.5 here, Teddy. -5.5. That's the Philadelphia Eagles at home off of that Sunday night thriller. What are we thinking here? Titans at Eagles.
So look ahead line opened Philly -7, 45.5. It got bet down before the games were played. Philly -6.5 and 44.5 for this one. My powering number came Philly 5.5. The markets are at 5.5 and 44.5 last night, and they stayed that way today. So we're not seeing any significant market indicators for this one as to where we can expect the numbers going. We have some injury concerns right now with Philadelphia, particularly in the secondary. You know, the safety, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was a league leader in interceptions going into the week, he left, and now you've got a tie. You know, you got Jake Goddard out at tight end. You have Avonte Maddox out in the secondary, and of course you have a defense that pretty well got gashed yesterday. You know, giving up 33 to a Packers team that wasn't supposed to be able to hang tough in that one. The offense kept scoring, and Green Bay missed an extra point that allowed Philly to cover the number. But when you're giving up 33 to the Packers and have had as many injuries on the defense side of the football, remember, the defensive line's not healthy either. They were signing guys off the waiver wire. Big name guys off the waiver wire, but they were signing guys off the waiver wire last week. There are definitely concerns about Philly on the defense side of the football. And when you're going up against a back like Derrick Henry, that could be a problem. Look, you know, the markets do not respect Tennessee. They're the AFC equivalent of Minnesota, a team that doesn't have the statistical profile that the markets tend to love. And yet they were one play away against the elite Cincy defense. And, well, you know, I mean, Tennessee played great football. They've been winning games and covering points for the better part of the last 2 months. Coming off a frustrating loss, we'll see how well they respond back as they step up in class. But from a matchup standpoint, I think Tennessee matches up pretty well against the Philadelphia team that is struggling right now on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, great matchup there. Good handicap. We got Jacksonville and Detroit up next, 1 o'clock Eastern kick, 459, 460. Seeing 51 to 52 being the total here, Teddy. We're also seeing the Lions -1 point home favorites. There is a pick 'em out there. So Jaguars at Lions in the Motor City here, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, the look headline here was pick 'em 49.5. We saw my powering number has Detroit -1, and we're seeing basically ones. There's a couple of 1.5. You mentioned there's a pick 'em out there, but the prevailing market number right now is 1 and 51.5. We are seeing some 52s popping up in this one, so it's been nothing but over money so far. And the Lions are a team the markets want to bet over. You know, it is worth noting Detroit. So far this season, what are they? 4-7 right now. They're 2-0 against teams that are below 500. They beat the Packers. They beat the Bears. They're 2-7 against teams that are 500 or better. So their schedule's been tough. And while Jacksonville's coming off an impressive come from behind win yesterday, the Lions, my impression from them hanging tough against the Bills, still losing on Thanksgiving Day, this team's gaining confidence that they could play with good teams. There are things to like about Detroit, but of course there are things to like about Jacksonville yesterday. Trevor Lawrence looked like the franchise quarterback he's supposed to be. Third game in a row where Trevor Lawrence completed more than 70% of his passes and had a passer rating of more than 100. That's the first time in his career that he's done that. And if you look at Trevor Lawrence, what was that game that made me so crazy that the Jags lost at home to, I can't remember who it was. They lost at home 16-9 to someone, and Lawrence, it looked like he'd never seen a two deep zone before. He's getting better, and the Jags are getting better, and they're gaining in confidence, and that's a team that this is going to be a great game. Talk about games you want to watch this week. Winner of this game still alive in the playoff race. Just saying. But where the markets are moving, they're not moving anywhere except for over on the total.
Next game up, guys. 461, 462. NFC East battle here, Teddy. A good one. Washington and the New York Giants. We get -1.5, -2 available out there. That is the former football team, Washington, as the slight road favorite. 40.5 being the total. Washington at New York.
Yeah, two teams heading in opposite directions right now, right? The Giants are slumping and the Commanders are playing great. Washington's 6-1 in their last 7 ball games. The Giants have just lost back-to-back. Look ahead line here, Washington -1, total of 42. My power rating, Washington -1. The markets, -1.5 / -2. 40.5 / 41. Really, the 41s are gone right now. 40.5 is the prevailing total. So we are seeing under money come in right from the get-go here. And again, everyone's impressed with this Washington win streak, as they should be. Washington played some good football in recent weeks. Who have they beaten? Oh, they beat the Bears, who stink. They beat the Packers, who stink. They beat Indy, that can't score. Impressive win against Philly. But that was the game Philly was going to lose, after you go undefeated and you get to this stage of the season. They played Houston and they played Atlanta. The only loss during that span came to Minnesota. It's not like this team has been beating up on the strong. They've been beating up on the weak and winning a whole lot of tight games. And then you compare that to who the G-men have been playing of late. And again, there's concerns about the Giants. They had the game to Detroit, they didn't play well. They had the game against Dallas where they didn't play well. I get it. They had the game against Seattle where they didn't play well. 3 losses in their last 4 contests. But all that being said, they're getting healthier. Bunch of guys supposed to be back. Left guard Brendan Bredesen. Bredesen is expected to be back. Right tackle Evan Neal could well be back. Starting outside the linebacker Azeez Ojulari could be back. Fabian Moreau at corner could be back. Those are key guys for the G-men who haven't been that far away. I think the market's maybe ahead of the horse here when it comes to Washington, even though I did have the Commanders as favorites in this one. I'll be looking at the home dog before I was looking at the road chalk.
Couple more 1 o'clock Eastern kicks here is the NFL opening line report. Teddy covers Drew Martin. Follow Teddy on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Next game up, 463-464 Cleveland at Houston. We're seeing the Browns -7-point road favorites here, Teddy. 46.5 being the consensus total here. Cleveland off of a good game. Houston, just 1 win on the season. Laying 7, though. That's the Browns on the road in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, the markets were not excited about this change from Davis Mills to the backup Kyle Allen. And look, Allen was pretty awful yesterday. Even Mills has been pretty awful all year, but Allen certainly wasn't any better. The markets knew that going in. There was nothing but Miami money in the betting markets last week. And certainly when you look at the look-ahead line here, Cleveland opened 4.5. They were bet up to 6. Total opened 43.5, bet up to 44.5 on the look-ahead line. My powering number came 6.5. The markets came 6.5, 7 last night, total of 45. And as you mentioned, nothing but over money here. With 7 and 46 earlier this morning, now we're seeing 47s out there. And frankly, I wouldn't be shocked if it goes higher. If you like this, and I hate to do it in a game that was 45 last night and it's 46.5, 47 right now, but it's clear the market's like the over with Deshaun Watson's return. And of course, in terms of this revenge angle, Deshaun Watson didn't play here last year, and the roster is completely turned over from where Bill O'Brien had them in 2020. I don't think there's a legit revenge angle here, but the markets are crashing on Houston. Last week against the Commanders, they had 5 yards at halftime. Against the Dolphins, they were worse. They had 32 yards in the first half. The Dolphins had 30 points in the first half. Okay. Houston's a tough team to put your money on right now, and the market's realizing that. Now, Cleveland found a way to beat, and a heck of a catch from Njoku on 4th and 10 to beat the Bucs yesterday and quote-unquote save their season. Deshaun Watson comes back. This isn't an easy team necessarily to lay points with right now, but from a fundamental standpoint in the trenches, especially because they don't stop the run well. That could easily be a problem against Houston. But on the offensive side of the football, Cleveland has the potential to just run it down Houston's throat. The Texans, not a good defensive team and not strong in the trenches, and that is one of the Browns' strengths. So I can understand all the Cleveland money, the over money. You're relying on Houston to score some points in that situation, which is a leap of faith.
Well put there, Teddy. We got last 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here. 465-466. It's the Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears. -2 at most shops, I guess we could call it, but seeing some different lines out there, Teddy, for some reason.
Yeah.
Would you talk live on
real.
screen? Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. The numbers aren't there. I mean, the markets aren't established. There's a handful of books. There's a 1.5 out there. There's a 2.5 out there. My powering number is Packers 3.5. That's an Aaron Rodgers number. I don't know if Rodgers is going to play. Look headline here was 2.5 and 44, and kind of came off the board when Fields' injury was announced. But we don't know who's going to play quarterback for either one of these two teams. And the markets aren't going to be fully established on this game until we do know. Worth noting, I talked about how bad Chicago's defense has been, and they had more injuries yesterday. Safety Eddie Jackson got hurt. Wide receiver Darrell Mooney got hurt. Offensive linemen, a pair of offensive line injuries for Chicago. It's a 3-win team right now that's not showing signs that they really want to win games this year. I think they'll be very happy with draft choice. And again, a first-year head coach. They're not going to quit on Eberflus, but I don't see that urgency for the Bears winning games. And without Justin Fields, that's a bottom feeder of a team. Of course, the Packers sure look like a bottom feeder of a team right now. I'll have to see if it's going to be Jordan Love, who was impressive in his action in relief of Aaron Rodgers last night. But, of course, Green Bay is a team that cannot stop the run, and that can be a problem against a Bears team that runs the ball pretty good. The Packers, number 30 against the run last year, and got absolutely gashed by Philadelphia last night. When you're giving up 40 points, your defense is doing something wrong. And Packers are looking like a last-place team right now, or the moral equivalent thereof.
Heading to the later kicks here, guys. 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific kicks from here on out. And then the Sunday nighter and Monday nighter, of course. 467, 468, Seattle Seahawks at the LA Rams. Heading to the NFC West here. Teddy, we got -5. -5.5 is available as well. That's the Seahawks as the road favorite on the road, defending Super Bowl champions, Los Angeles Rams. 40.5 being the total in Inglewood.
Hoo-wee, the markets are crashing on the Rams right now. The Rams are priced as a bottom 3 team right now. They're priced, I think, look at these numbers. They're better than Houston. That's the team. The defending Super Bowl champs are being priced like they're Houston, or like Chicago without Fields. That's what the Rams are right now. A look headline 3 at the open, bet up to 3.5. My powering number came 3.5. And last night, the markets were all over the place. There were 3.5s, 4s, 4.5s, and 5s. This morning, it's pretty much 5s. Nobody wants the Rams right now. Total has been bet down. Look ahead was 42.5. We're 42.5 last night. We're seeing pretty much 41/40.5 right now. So nobody thinks the Rams are going to score. And I don't blame them. When you're missing Matthew Stafford, you're missing Cooper Kupp. They've had 11 different starting offensive line combinations in 11 games. And it is very clearly LA is playing out the string. They're going to try the young guys. We're going to see if McVay sticks around this offseason. And it's going to be like the Tutu Atwell show for LA. They're not playing for this season anymore. And the markets are saying that pretty clearly. Now, Seattle was on the wrong end of a couple of bizarre, questionable calls. I mean, bad, real dicey calls yesterday. They cost them the game, essentially. They got a couple of interceptions, but they got annihilated on the ground in the loss, which is to the Raiders. But LA can't do that. The markets know that LA can't do that. Smith's playing some good football. Again, got to call it how it is. We're not going to see Rams money. The markets are crashing on the Rams. If you like the Seahawks, not going to hurt you to get involved at 5 right now. I don't think this line's going down.
Next game up, arguably the game of the weekend here, Teddy. Going to learn a lot. Miami Dolphins, San Francisco 49ers, 4 o'clock Eastern kick on the West Coast, 1 o'clock Pacific here. We are seeing the Dolphins catching 3.5 on the road, making the San Francisco 49ers 3 in the hook favorites, 46.5 being the total. This Dolphins offense versus this 49ers defense going to be fun to watch here, Teddy. What are we thinking in San Francisco?
Really well. This is the game of the weekend. One last note on the Rams. Stafford, who's in concussion protocol. The quotes from McVay indicate that we're not convinced that Matthew Stafford is going to play again this season for LA. So again, just one more reason to look at the Rams as legitimate bottom feeders, despite the fact that they're defending Super Bowl champs. Miami, San Fran, look ahead line, 545.5. 5 got bet down to 4.5. Here's the interesting thing, and you don't see this very often. 45.5 is a total, got bet up to 48 on the look ahead line. There was all kinds of over money on that. And of course, now we're seeing 46.5 as the prevailing number. My powering number, San Fran, minus 2.5. The markets are at 3.5. So we have a difference across that key number of 3. And again, we're seeing 46.5 the total right here. And I get it. The 49ers have not given up a second half score since week 7, that game where they got torched by Kansas City. That's 4 straight games. They haven't given up a point in the last 6 quarters of action. That defense is playing truly at an elite level right now. And of course, we have Mike McDaniel, who comes from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, who was QB coach right here in San Francisco. So we have 2 coaches that know each other well. Don't be fooled by the final score in Miami yesterday, okay? Tua got pulled, early in the third quarter, midway through the third, after throwing for 299 yards and a touchdown. 5 straight games, Tua hasn't thrown a pick. And the 30-0 lead became a 30-15 final. They did not play with the same intensity after halftime, which could mean you get a little value on Miami in this one. San Fran has all the offensive weapons, and there are concerns about Miami on the defense side of the football. Certainly Miami's season-long defensive stats aren't close to San Fran's, but Miami's showing some signs on the defense side of the football. I'm not convinced the full season numbers are the truth of what this Dolphins defense is. The markets are. The markets are going to love San Fran. San Fran is a wise guy team right now. If you're playing the 49ers, you're laying a premium because of it. That's why this line is 3.5. Not 3.
He's Teddy Covers. Check him out, wagertalksportsmemo.com. Making some money, 60% all sports last 3 days. NFL 285 and 233. That's 55% since week 1 of 2015, going back 8 seasons, guys. That is a heck of an accomplishment in the NFL betting markets. In all of his 5% big ticket plays since May of 2021, 67%. So look out for those 5% plays. Also, if you're looking for an NBA handicapper, he knows his association. 86 and 48, 64% run since February in the NBA, which is going on as well. We got Chargers and Raiders up next, Teddy. Next game up, we're heading to Las Vegas, Nevada, not far from where you're talking right now. 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific kick. -2.5, -2 actually, could call it. Chargers as the road favorite, 51 being the total. What are we thinking in Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, Nevada, Teddy?
Yeah, Allegiant Stadium, right up the street from my house, maybe a 10-minute drive from here. Maybe it's 15-minute drive. I don't know. I don't drive it every day, and whenever I do, there's traffic. That being said, look at line here. Chargers -3 and 48. Note the difference there. We're seeing, and again, we're not seeing a huge move towards the Raiders yet. But my powering number is 1. The 3s went to 2.5, and now we're seeing 2s. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more Raiders money. If there's going to be, we need one emergency betting alert. This feels like it might be the right one. Dan, let's cue it up. I like keeping Dan on his toes behind the scenes. Thank you, as always. Just so you guys know, the crew behind the scenes that help us, Drew and I, do this show every week, second to none. They're phenomenal. That's why Wager Talk TV became the first sports betting group to have 100,000 followers on YouTube. That's impressive. We got the big article in Yahoo because of it. So nice to see the mainstream media recognition. That being said, we could well see Raiders money. The Chargers finding ways to win games where they probably shouldn't. Did it again yesterday. And of course, the 2-point conversion at the end means they're not going to cover. They've been in a double-digit hole 6 times this season, and they're 4-2 straight up in those games, which is definitely worth noting when it comes to in-game betting. They've been real good at cashing some big plus-price tickets, But the Raiders, again, my powering number here is only 1. This is a team that won 4 straight last year to play their way into the playoffs. Josh Jacobs coming off a career-setting day, back-to-back walk-off wins by a touchdown in overtime the last year. Because only happened 3 times since overtime began back in 1974. This team is feeling a little bit better about themselves right now. Raiders might be live dogs in this one. I would not be surprised at all if we see some Raiders money. The 3s are gone. There's still 2.5s out there now. I'm not convinced the 2.5s are going to be there all that much longer. Like the Raiders, I bet them sooner rather than later. If you like the Chargers, there's no urgency to get down on your wager.
Emergency betting alert in the books there from Teddy Covers. Guys, next game up, also arguably maybe the best game on the slate. All due respect to the Dolphins and 49ers. Chiefs and Bengals here, Teddy. We get Kansas City minus 2.5-point road favorites, 52.5 being the total. Chiefs at Bengals to end the afternoon kicks.
Look at line here, Kansas City minus 3. The total was 51 and got bet up to 52 on the look-ahead line. My powering number has the Chiefs only by 1.5. The markets opened 3 last night, 51.5. Today we're seeing 2.5s and some 52/52.5. And frankly, let's throw one more emergency betting alert right now because this one's getting popped as we speak. If you like the Chiefs Bengals over, get to the window, run, don't walk. It's getting popped right now. I'm seeing 52.5, currently getting popped up to 53. There are still 52s out there. Get a 52 right now, you'll get the best of the number for this total. Obviously, if there's weather conditions in Cincy later in the week, you won't get the best of the number, but assuming that there are no weather conditions in Cincy, the 52s is the best you're going to do on this total. So if you like the over, get involved. Joe Burrow, talking about the come-from-behind win against Tennessee yesterday. That was a great game. Quote, that's the kind of game that great teams win. This is the Bengals squad that's won 7 of the last 9. They're tied for first place after that 0-2 start. They didn't have their number 1 wide receiver yesterday in Jamar Chase, and the connection between Burrow and his receiving core was still incredible. T. Higgins making catches. I mean, it was really impressive. Of course, they are facing a Chiefs team with playoff revenge. And I've got Kansas City right now. Again, I've only got them 1.5-point favorites in this game. I've got the Chiefs number 1 in my NFL power ratings right now, above Buffalo. Truly an elite team. And I don't know if I want to step in front of them off since he being satisfied with the win, especially with that playoff revenge angle for Kansas City. So we're not seeing, they've bet it off a 3. The Chiefs opened 3 and has been bet down, and I'm not getting the sense it's going to go back up to 3. Nonetheless, the reasonable case is to be made here for Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City as road chalk.
Got Sunday night football up next here, guys. Indianapolis Colts, Dallas Cowboys. Seeing 43.5, 44 being the total as we're talking now. Teddy, -9, -9.5. That's the Dallas Cowboys as the home favorite. Do note, we are talking on Monday here. NFL opening line report, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. And Indianapolis does play tonight, Monday Night Football. So, Teddy, maybe if you'd like them, look to make 2 bets. Not sure if that's the case here, but Colts at Cowboys. Cowboys -9, 43.5 being the total.
So I think the correlation between Indy's success tonight and this point spread has less to do than the correlation with Pittsburgh's success tonight, the point spread against Atlanta next week. I think there's less correlation here, just because Dallas is so good. And the markets are finally seeing Dallas as what they are. Look at line here was 9.5. Total got bet down 45.5 to 43.5. And the Indy game, the total getting bet down makes sense. This better. My powering number has Cowboys 9.5, just like the look ahead line was, which is just where the market is today. And the total at 43.5 really hasn't moved just yet. As you mentioned, Indy plays Monday Night Football. But if Indy, let's say the Colts blow them out, they're still going to be, 7.5, 8, 8.5. You're not going to get any key numbers working in your favor in that. Whereas we talk about Pittsburgh, that could easily be a 3, where you would get a key number working in your favor in that regard. Look, the Colts play tonight. We'll see how they look. I got a season win total on the Cowboys under. It's looking increasingly likely like I was going to lose that bet. Remember, the book Looking for Publicity paid out all of the Dallas under bets week 1 after the injury to Dak Prescott. That turned out to be a bad decision for that book, where it didn't have a lot of liability. That's why they did it. But Micah Parsons is Ray Lewis. The Cowboys' defense is very, very real. And I can understand why this point spread is where it is. The offense clicking, the defense is clicking. Dallas is looking to me like a legit Super Bowl contender. I make them the favorite out of the NFC.
Monday night, December 5th to end it here, guys. 477-478. New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay Bucs. New Orleans, of course, kind of tough travel spot here on the road, coast to coast, off of that loss to the 49ers. 40 being the total. Bucs -3. There are a couple -4s out there, Teddy, as they look to bounce back off of that loss last Sunday. What are we thinking Monday night?
Yeah, look at the markets crashing on Tampa right now. Look ahead line here, Bucs -6.5. The total was 42.5 for the overest place in the NFC South. But they also lost a right tackle, Tristan Wirfs. Brady took hit after hit after hit. Tom Brady looked old yesterday. There's no other way to say it. And the defense is making mistakes right now. The defense isn't buying in. There's not a lot to like about Tampa, and they're a first-place team that the markets aren't all that excited about. Anyone can make a run in this division. If anyone gets hot in this division, they're capable of winning the division. I mean, the Saints stink. They've been bad all year. They were awful. Alvin Kamara's fumbling, missing field goals. They're getting takeaways negated by penalties. They can't get into the end zone. The coaching change hasn't gone particularly well. Andy Dalton led the team in rushing yesterday. They only gotten 100 net rushing yards once in the last 6 games. There's a lot of problems in New Orleans, and yet that's the team that's taking money. The markets don't want Tampa as a favorite right now. The Bucs just don't seem to have that match.
Teddy covers making money 60% all sports last 3 days, 86-48, 64% in the NBA since February, 47-23, 67%, all 5% big ticket plays since May of 2021. And my favorite here, 285 and 233. That's 55% winners in the NFL betting markets the last 8 seasons. Might not sound that sexy, guys, but that winning percentage over that long of a period of time, there isn't a lot of people out there doing it. He is. Follow him on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. Check us both out, WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Teddy, throw it back over to you. Any final thoughts before we shut it down?
No, I'm glad. I'm always worried when the schedule fills up that we're not going to have enough time to get through all the games. So I try to plow through everything real quick. And obviously, this week and next week we still have buys. Then after that, we won't have buys, and but I'll do my best to give shorter analysis on some of the stuff so we can answer some questions at the end. But it is what it is. I try to give you guys everything I have. Thank you so much for watching. And again, if you like the show, please give us a like. Please give us a comment. Please tell your friends if you like the show. We're always looking to grow. Thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, we'll answer some questions on next week's show. Feel free to fire away in the reply section below on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Like Teddy said, smash that like button. For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next Monday. Cash those tickets.
Whether you are a current Wager Talk TV subscriber, a fan of the extensive amount of free betting information we release, or a client of one of our incredible lineup of handicappers at Wager Talk or Sports Memo, we thank you. Thanksgiving is a holiday loaded with traditions, and we started one of our traditions years ago. Get a 7-day all sports all access from any handicapper for just $69. That's under $10 per day and just $10 more than a 3-day all access. So whether you're traveling, have a house full of relatives, or just sitting back relaxing with an incredible week of sports, you can do so with the convenience of a 7-day pass. There is no coupon needed, and you can choose as many services as you'd like. This Thanksgiving special will be available through Cyber Monday, November 28th, all for just $69. Thank you again for being part of the Wager Talk and Sports Memo family.